Greetings, this is Larry Walling, and this is Hearts for Africa. We're all about linking you, the listeners, with the people over there on the African continent and how you can get personally involved in changing their lives. And we do this by giving you information from the people that we work with, .org's websites, emails, and phone numbers when available. So we interview people from all over the continent of Africa, and it's a very large continent with many different countries over there and a lot of different situations and dynamics going on, and we're very privileged to be able to do that. So this morning, because we've only got about 30 minutes for our interview, I'd like to get started rather quickly. I met some young ladies a week or two ago with an organization called Because of Hope, and they are out of Uganda, East Africa, and they work with primarily with women and micro-enterprise and helping these women support their families. A lot of them have lost husbands due to AIDS or possibly tribal warfare, or they just were abandoned by their husbands, and they're left to support their children on their own. And we all know how hard that is just here in the U.S., but over there it's the odds are surmountable. It's unbelievable over there. So I'd like to introduce these young ladies to you this morning, and I believe I'm speaking with Allison Carroll right now.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Allison, and then there's Nikki Day, and there's also the founder, Natalie, and what's your last Lemonnier?
Lemonnier, yes, that's correct.
Did I get it okay? I'm really good at French, you can tell. So anyway,
yeah.
I'm very privileged to be able to interview these young women here, and I'm so proud of them and what they're doing. My daughter is an advocate for helping out young women as well, and I'm just so privileged and honored to be able to have you guys on the show today. So who would like to start out and tell us a little bit about how this all got started and when?
Yeah, this is Natalie. I would love to. So basically the organization started out actually a couple years ago, kind of informally, when me and Nikki were both doing some volunteer work in Uganda, and we met the founders of the organization that has become our partner organization. They're called Widows and Orphans Community Action Plan. And basically, they are a small Ugandan nonprofit that was started by a Ugandan couple who wanted to help the widows of their community be able to support their families. And they already had some different projects going on with 3 different villages, the main one being a jewelry-making project. And we became close with them, and I went back on a later trip and kind of reconnected with them. And in the process of doing that, visited the villages again, and they repeatedly expressed that their biggest need was selling the jewelry because there was just no market in Uganda for that. And so I started selling it in the U.S. just kind of informally to family and friends. And, by the grace of God, it has developed into our nonprofit.
So, and Allison and Nikki, so Natalie, you're the founder of the organization. Now you got, I don't know what you would call it, licensed or certified in 2011 then?
Yes, that's correct. So we've been operational for a little over a year as of July.
Okay, and as far as what you all do, we know that you're the founder, and Allison and Nikki, what are your parts in all of this?
This is Allison. I do a lot of coordinating fundraisers. I am president of the board of directors, and I do a lot of just the community outreach things and researching events, fundraising, trying to promote awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let Nikki tell you what she does. Hi. I do a lot of the graphic design work, a lot of media stuff that we need to advertise for our organization. And then right now we're also working on these surveys called needs assessments.
And basically, we've gotten one from each of the ladies in the villages we work in. So it's about 240 of them. And they're about 8-page surveys, and we're going through them just trying to figure out what their greatest challenges are before we start implementing programs in our villages.
So you're really brand new, and I mean, and that's what really impressed me so much about what you're doing is that you're just not. I mean, you're just graduated from UCSB, correct? All three of you.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
UCSB. People, for those of you who don't know, it's University of Santa Barbara here in California, and they've all graduated from there. And just think of it, they've all launched into this. This is a life-changing thing, not only for them, but especially for the people, the women and children that they work with over in Uganda. Now, how often are you able to go over there and actually work physically, and what would be an average length of time that you usually spend over there when you do go?
Yeah, this is Natalie. We've been very blessed in the fact that having a partner organization has really allowed us to do a lot in our first year in Uganda that we wouldn't have been able to do without people for our organization on the ground in another context. So our partner organization has really been able to facilitate a lot of things for us this last year without one of us being over there. Mm-hmm. However, I was there for the months of February and March, fine-tuning some of just the production process with the jewelry, shipping, just building relationships with our partner organization and the women directly who work with and living in one of their villages. And so I was there representing Bo for 2 months earlier in this year. And we're not exactly sure when we will next be sending someone over, but as we are implementing programs and stuff, we do recognize that we will need more manpower over there for our own organization. But we don't have any kind of regular system. It's sort of as needed, and as things are developing, we'll be sending people over there when necessary.
Mm-hmm. Now, you all three hold regular jobs now, do you, here in Santa Barbara?
We do. As a part of the organization, nobody gets paid. It's all volunteer work as of right now. And so this is Allison. I'm a nanny for a family in Santa Barbara, and then I answer phone calls for one of my friends' companies also. Yeah. This is Nikki. I also just nanny on the side, and then also, a lot of time goes towards Bo. But like Allison said, we don't get the salaries for that.
This is Natalie. I was just going to say, I'm in the process of starting a personal chef business, so that'll be in the future how I'll be supporting myself.
Very cool. Are you going to take a class in Santa Barbara? Are you going to travel somewhere else? My daughter's one of her best friends. Well, she went to Paris for, I think, a year, maybe 2 years, and her main forte was dessert. She did very well at it. She's passionate about that.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, my emphasis is in organic and healthy cooking styles. So,
well, you lost me now. I'm not there. Fried food, give it to me. I love it. Not really.
Yeah, that's my emphasis.
Occasionally, I'll have some fried food. I love In-N-Out. That's my favorite hamburger, and I never eat it because I have to force myself not to eat. It's not really junk food, but in a way, kind of is. Okay, so I can only imagine with your schedules and working and all that, how busy you have to be with all of this. I know with what I do, I work full-time. I have my own company. I have for many years. I travel a lot, as you know, Allison, because I call and you and I are pretty much linked together with all of this right now. And so I travel extensively up and down California from San Francisco to San Diego quite often. And I do this, it's not a hobby, it's my passion with a radio program, and it's quite a lot. There's a lot of research that you have to do. You have to contact the people that you're going to be working with, and then you have to keep track of updates and things like that. So I can only imagine what it would be like working with an organization as you guys are, as often as you are. So I was going to ask, how many hours in a day do you usually devote to this on average?
It can vary. I would say for myself, it's typically maybe 5 to 6 hours a day. But it kind of depends too with weekends and fundraisers. So sometimes we work on the weekends also. But yeah, for Natalie right now, she's more of like an 8-hour day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would say though, when you look at our weeks, typically where they're not 5-day work weeks, you do work when it's there. So during the weekends, a lot of times we are working like six days a week at least, if not more, if it's a 2-day fundraiser. But I mean, the bottom line is for us is that we feel really privileged to get to work with the women that we're working with, and we are really excited to get to partner with them. And we know that, we're really fortunate here that we do get days off every week where, in Uganda, the women we're working with, they don't get a break from their hardship.
Mm-hmm.
That is day to day. And so, their day-to-day activities of looking after their kids, of taking care of their house, of farming all day, and then having to come home and prepare dinner, which takes, hours, and they live without electricity and running water, and their hardships don't end. And so it's really not about how hard we work, because we feel like we're very fortunate to be doing what we're doing, even if it can be exhausting sometimes. But, the women that we're working with, they're very inspirational, and they really are our source of, encouragement and inspiration, I guess, in our day-to-day. And we try and keep our focus on that because there is no weekend, there is no day off from those things for them. So we really feel fortunate for the fact that we get to do this and for the time that we are putting in. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know how you feel. I've been to Africa a couple of times. The first time was in 2007 with a team of about 15 of us, and then the last time there was another person, myself, that went in 2009 to Kenya and then to Tanzania and then over to Zanzibar. And, just looking at the living conditions over there for the most part, and, mind you, Tanzania is actually a fairly stable government in Africa. If, as you look at Africa as a continent, they really don't have a lot of the problems that a lot of the other countries do, in Uganda especially, in the Congo and Ethiopia. So it's not a bad place to be, but even so, by our standard of living over here, it's really, you would call it substandard. And we were able to, in 2007, visit between 5 and 7 different orphanages. They all varied widely from the children that were there. A lot of them that we had visited, they were fairly malnourished. And a lot of them had the HIV. I don't know how many of them might have had AIDS. I never really got the stats on that. But it was really just really disheartening to see that in the poverty. I mean, one day we traveled for almost 15 hours across country, and all we saw was poverty, no matter where we went. So, and we're pretty blessed here, and I think. And I've said it on past programs that, poverty can be experienced by degrees. And when we look at the poverty here that we have in the United States, if comparing the two here as to Africa, there are no comparisons. I mean, we have the means to take care of our poor. And in a lot of cases, the poor choose to either, take advantage of those things that we offer to them, or they don't. But they do have a choice for the most part here. But over there, they have no choice. And what you guys are doing over there is it's phenomenal. And I really think a lot of what you're doing is, to me, I'm extremely impressed, and I will do everything I can to promote you on the program, and also on Twitter and Facebook, and get you out there. Now, you do travel around to different venues and set up tables and sell these different items that the women make from Uganda. Are they usually churches that you go to, or are there other venues that you go to as well to do this?
We do a lot of events at churches, and usually we travel to different churches in California. We also do local artist events. Santa Barbara is a really great area for local artists, and they have a lot of different craft fairs and things like that. So we've done a few of those things. We've done around the holidays. There are a lot more vendor opportunities also. So we pretty much take advantage of every opportunity that comes our way, or try to at least. And right now we're trying to get more involved with high schools and college campuses also, just to give students the opportunity to get involved with our mission. So that's kind of another step we're trying to take.
Okay, now I'm going to stop you right there, and I want you to give out some contact information to our listeners so they can get a hold of you. And I know you have your website and probably some phone numbers. I know you also have an email, and they can also do it by post. Would you like to give out that information? I'll do it right before we end the program too. But I want to make sure that you give that out to our listeners.
Yeah, our website is www.becauseofhope.org. And if they are a good contact email is just info at becauseofhope.org. And we do read the info emails. And then if you want to contact us by phone, you could reach us at 661-319-5052. And that's my cell phone number, so people could contact me through that.
Okay. Now, do you have any goals or objectives? I know how you started this, but where do you envision it going from here now? What are your goals?
I think our next biggest goal that we've just set is we would love to launch a student sponsorship program. In February. That's when most of the students in Uganda go back to school. That's when their semester starts. And just in processing a lot of the needs assessments, we just see that school fees is such an overwhelming need, and it's one of the biggest financial burdens for the women in our program. And so a lot of times students aren't able to go to school simply because they can't afford either the school fees or the uniforms or the school materials. And so that's kind of moving forward. Our next goal is to be launching a program that will be able to assist in that way and invest in students' education. And the goal being that investing in their education will open up new doors to them and give them new opportunities. And so we will be campaigning for that program in the very near future.
Very good. And I'm thinking now, as far as the future goes, with the three of you and BOH, Because of Hope, is this something you see yourselves doing the rest of your lives? I mean, do you see yourselves just making this grow? I mean, I know how, well, I'm not going to take that back. I don't know how God works, but in some of the ways that he works with me, he'll start me out in one thing or another, and then he'll move me on to something else. So it's kind of like even with this program. I mean, it's right now we're focusing on Africa, but it might evolve into something else. Do you see that happening with you at all?
Yeah, this is Nikki. Just with moving forward, I think we're just trying to walk open-handed to whatever God would have us do. Right now, I see myself doing this for a long time, actually. But we're very open to, if God opens the door for another continent, for another country, that would be a big project for us just because we are just starting out. But I think that like I said, we're just walking open-handed, and we're looking forward to whatever he has for us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to approach it. I mean, we know Dennis Wadley. Dennis Wadley is a mutual friend of ours, and he used to pastor a church in Santa Barbara, California, a Community Covenant Church. And that's pretty much we've got that connection with one with the other. But that's kind of how Dennis started out in Africa. He started an organization along with his family in 2001, Bridges of Hope International in South Africa. And he was there for, I think he was there for about 5 years the first time. Then he came back and he pastored the church again. And then something happened. He and I talked about this, but he came back and pastored the church, and we all loved that, because he's a phenomenal person, just a wonderful man and a good friend of mine. And he felt called this time to go back into missions pretty much full time. Now, not all of that is in Africa. I mean, he does a lot of ministry in Santa Barbara too, and with different organizations that are more local. But his main focus is in Africa. So he changed. You know, he started pastoring the church, and he pastored that for a number of years before I even started going to that church. And then he felt called to go to Africa and thought he would be there for quite a while, but was led to come back. So God moved him around, almost like on a chessboard. And I think as Christians, we need to be open to that, because I know sometimes when I'm doing something, I think, well, I know this is what God wants me to do, and I'm not going to bend, I'm not going to move, I'm not going to change. You know, God's not going to change me as I'm here forever. I don't think so. And I think we have to be open to that. And if we are, God can really use us in what we're doing. And because he does, he moves us around from time to time. There are those of us who don't get moved around. But I think that would be the exception to the rule. So that's why I asked that question, because I know in my life that's how it's happened with me.
Well, and one thing, too, that we like to, it's just the truth about Bo is that God really is writing a story about this organization. And he kind of got the ball rolling long before we knew what was going on, long before we knew that our relationship with this partner organization was going to turn into a nonprofit in America. And our hope really is that people would look at, the three of us who have started this and see that, when you look at us, we're three young women who are completely inexperienced in the business world. None of us had any business background as far as launching a nonprofit. We had recently graduated from university, and God has completely used the three of us in our inabilities, in our inexperience, and been able to start this organization. And it's not because we're qualified or anything. It's because of what He's done. And so our hope really is that people would look at us and notice that we couldn't have done this on our own. Connections have come up that are just unbelievable. We got an NBC interview not that long ago, completely through connections that came to us and just different networking things, and we've been blessed right and left. And we can't take credit for anything that's going on, and we really hope that that people look at us and recognize that, because we're not in control of where Bo is, and where it's headed. We're just blessed to have been the tools that God used to start this organization, and we're blessed to be a part of it. But He really is the one writing the story, and He's going to be writing the story moving forward. And so this is very much, a spirit-led ministry. And so we do prayerfully walk forward. And so, as Nikki was saying about being open-handed, we really do just hope that people will look at the three of us and our inabilities and see that, we're not doing this in our own strength, because we simply couldn't.
No, and we never are. And I know as believers, as myself goes, as far as I go, that's how this started, the radio show. And I don't know, Allison, because you and I have spoke out of the three of you more often than anybody. But when I started this program, I actually started taping the shows in January of 2012. But because of copyright and that for the intro music that we use, we didn't air any of the programs until about 4 months ago. This will be my 17th or 18th show right now. So, but when I started it, the general manager of the radio station here where I broadcast asked me, what my hobbies in that were, and I told him I didn't really have any hobbies, but I had a passion that was Africa. But totally inexperienced and not professional, because it's not what I do for a living. But I didn't let that stop me from what I knew God was calling me to do. I knew I had a heart for Africa, but I didn't know that it would turn into anything like what I'm doing right now. In my own small way, I'm able to expose people and organizations like yourselves to the public out there. And it's not, when I think about it as being a local show, it is as far as the radio goes, but it's not as far as the internet goes. It's international, and people hear this show around the world. So it could have quite a huge impact, and that would be all up to God as to where He wants to take it from here. But my point is that I had no experience, but I prayed about this quite often, but I did not let it stop me from going out there and doing what I felt God was leading me to do. And usually, and I'll probably have to end the program here in a few minutes, but I'll say this. When I say this usually at the end of every program that we do, when God directs your path, and you know it's God calling you to do something, you always do it with passion, and you'll never look back and you'll never regret it, as long as you know that God is calling you to do that. I think the only time you would is if you had an opportunity and you overlooked it. And so my constant prayer is, not only for myself but for you guys and for everybody out there who's listening, is that always keep your eyes and ears open for opportunity, and always be praying for that, because the only time we shortchange ourselves is if we make ourselves not available. So the best things we can do is just make ourselves available and pray for the availability to where we can be used, and God will use us. Oh yeah, it's just like praying for patience. I don't do that anymore. But he will put you in situations where you require the patience, and when you want to be available, he'll bring those opportunities up for you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you again one more time for your contact information. We're going to have to end the program, but go ahead and give that out again one more time.
Our website is www.becauseofhope.org. And people can find out more information through the website. They can also go to the online store and purchase things made by the women. And if they would like to email us, they can email us at info@becauseofhope.org. And my phone number is 661-319-5052.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to say it, but our time has come to an end, and I've really enjoyed this short span of time that we've been able to share with each other. But thank you, Natalie, the founder, and Allison and Nikki for being on the program today, and I'll just be praying for you guys constantly about this, and we do want you to come back on the program about every 6 weeks or so for updates. Can you do that?
We would love to. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, we love what you're doing with your radio show, and we're all about spreading awareness, so I think that's great, and we would love to continue to be a part of the show.
Well, thank you, and be praying that we can extend it to an hour, because that's something that we're going to need to do, because a half an hour just isn't long enough. So God bless you guys in the work that you're doing in Uganda. I hope to speak with you soon. As I said before, whenever God leads you and directs your path, always do it with passion. Until next time, this is Larry Walling with Hearts for Africa. Be well, be safe, and may God bless you.
I would like to thank Miriam Stockley for graciously allowing us to use her beautiful version of the song Adenius, originally composed by well-known Welsh composer Carl Jenkins. You can also hear it on her recent CD, Eternal.